Thank you very much, friends from servants of the Buddha. Friends I call Kalyana Mitras. Thank you for this opportunity. Let me get straight to the topic. I discussed with Dr. Manori that we will do the practice because my talk includes a practice. I would like to do a 10-minute, even a 15-minute practice, as that is the way we can internalize what we hear today. So let me first give you the context, and then let's get into a practice. So I have a couple of points that I believe will help us to reflect on the practice of Dhammanupassana, which is the fourth part of the Satara Satipatthana, and also known as Vipassana. So before we go into Dhammanupassana, let us understand why we are doing this. It's always important to start from the basics and from the beginning. Becoming a Buddha is told to be a very extraordinary thing. And a Buddha, the term Buddha means an awakened one, implying that others are non-awakened beings. Awakened people are called arahants, and the awakened state is called nirvana, and this is something we know. So legend says that for humans to come across a Buddha, it's a very extraordinary event, which is possible after eons and eons. And the Buddha comes to this earth and helps us to understand something that no human has understood before. So it has to be really extraordinary in that sense. And what he shares is referred to as the Dhamma. And if you look at what Dhamma means, it's all about nature, reality, what is really going on. Why did people get interested? Because even though it was extraordinary, never heard before, it made a lot of sense. It's timeless. It was explained very well by the Buddha. It was explained in a way it can be practiced. First, it could be understood to a certain degree. It could be then practiced, and it could be internalized well. And as you go through that process, you realize that you start calming down and you feel peaceful, and you are more encouraged to hear more and practice more. And gradually, people who help you to hear more and practice together, you start getting attracted to those people and you start gathering with those people. And that is why the Buddha said, in this journey, you need Kalyana Mitras, which is people like all of you here, which whom I consider Kalyana Mitras. And hearing the Dhamma, which always inspires us and encourages us. And then, of course, to practice. And whenever we forget, to remind ourselves. So, one question to ask ourselves is, are we hearing anything extraordinary now? And there's a reason for this, because over the last 2,600 years, you can almost divide Buddhism into two, like popular culture and the extraordinary. With popular culture being around the 90%, which includes everything we all like, the rituals, the various other things, because the Buddha touched on many topics. All of that, including things like there is dissatisfaction in life, To be born is dissatisfactory, to grow old, to fall sick, and to die is dissatisfactory. And we know it is true. In fact, it's not just dissatisfactory. We know that to fall sick can be terrifying. We know that the prospect of dying can be terrifying. So you then wonder, do you need a Buddha to come and tell you that growing old is dissatisfactory? Falling sick and dying is dissatisfactory. I believe anyone who has lived for 35 years would understand this really well. That it's no fun. That when you're 35, you know that the next 65 years is not going to be any fun at all. It's going to be more heartache than it was in the first 35. So in the popular culture, we also hear about a nirvana. It's something, some state. But what we more hear about is, in order to get rid of this dissatisfaction, you need to do dana, sila, bhavana, dana being generosity, sila being morally principled, and bhavana being meditation. And the popular culture side of it, the meditation, you see, it's a multi-billion industry in the US. Mindfulness of the breath, mindfulness of walking, running. It's all part of popular culture. And in Sri Lanka, people really love things like Buddhanusati, which develops your faith in the teacher. Metta meditation, which develops loving kindness in you. All this helps. All of this helps. That is why millions are doing it. So you need to examine what is extraordinary about all of that. Dana, generosity, has been a thing humans practiced since humans walk this planet. There's no way we can be a community otherwise. Moral principles, the Buddha took it to another level. He took it to another level, but it was always there. Moral principles were there in this world. People love and admire good people. Meditation was there in the world. Mindfulness of the breath is more than 6,000 years old. Many forms of meditation were there in the world. The Buddha brought some absolutely unique, stunning techniques. But that also you can say that it was elevating what was already there to another level. So then we have to look at the 90% is in popular culture. What is that 10%? We know that the three characteristics of life, the Buddha spoke about: impermanence, dissatisfaction, and non-self. Anitya, dukkha, anatta. That extraordinary 10% is about this anatta and the Satra Satipatthana or the Vipassana, which helps you to understand that. If I think of myself, my interest in this whole concept of awakening started thanks to my first teacher. When I was 15, I came across a former engineer turned monk, Venerable Homagama Konnanya, who for the first time in my life showed this extraordinary side of the religion. The religion being the popular culture and the Dhamma being this extraordinary side, if I think about it. And whatever I heard, whatever I practiced at the time, mindfulness of breathing, it helped me relax, it helped me feel calm. And I felt, I want to be permanently relaxed. I want to be permanently calm. And I have been looking for how to do this since then. And gradually, as I grew older, I saw the benefits of metta. And I thought, other than wanting to be permanently relaxed and permanently calm, I also want to be permanently loving, kind, and generous. So now at the age of 51, 35 years later, what I have seen when I look back is this extraordinary teaching was always there. It never died. It was always there. It was just clouded, put into the back burner because the popular culture took precedence. So the good news is it's there. The good news is there are absolutely fantastic monks preaching this in a very simple, understandable manner. And if you look for it, you find it. And then I was wondering, how come it took so long to label for a Buddhist? And I had this as a syllabus from grade 1 to 10 to study and pass exams. It was there in the syllabus too, probably 5% or 1%. 99% was popular culture. And why is this? And the only thing I can think of is it's because, not for the lack of it not being there, it's for the lack of interest. That is why it's not popular culture, it's not interesting. So when I tell my family, every family gathering, I force them to sit down for 10 minutes and I talk to them of what is extraordinary about this. And they all say, this is good, very good. But I'm busy. I'll tell you when I am interested. I tell this to my friends. I tell my friends, we are 51 now, students who are together at school. Friends, we are running out of time. Some of our batchmates are dead already. And they tell us, yes, 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 but we are busy. And when I come for talks, sometimes I'm told, please don't talk about non-self. You will scare people and they won't come back again. So when Dr. Manori was interested about this topic, I was thinking, good, because we all need to really focus on what the Buddha really brought to this world. Why is it extraordinary for a Buddha to come? It is for this one reason. And there is a story where even Venerable Ananda was perplexed about this. So during Buddha's time, this whole concept of non-self was the popular culture because he made it so. He was not a person for rituals and everything else, but he was certainly a huge social reformer. So there was a lot of other things also that took place. However, for him, it was always this one thing. And Venerable Ananda would ask, yes, I see people come, get interested, go the path and get enlightened, but still, it is so little. Why is that? And then the Buddha said, he took some soil to his hands, just crunched it a bit and then put it away. And he said, Venerable Ananda, if you look at the soil caught between my nail in my fingertips, you see the soil? Yes, I do. What is greater, Ananda? The soil caught in my fingernail or the soil on this earth? So the answer is obvious, right? The soil on this earth. Just so it is. People who are interested and therefore who go this path and find what they're looking for is the same. The others, they know this exists, but they are not interested. So, friends, what is this all about? And I will tell you what got me interested. Couple of ways I learned what is this extraordinary thing, and I will share that with you and how I try to practice. And I would most welcome you to share with me any other techniques as well, because I keep learning. I have not stopped. So the first interesting thing I heard from great monks was this really great example of a ring of fire. So the Buddha found out that what we think we are is a delusion, and what is really going on is something we haven't really understood, because it cannot be seen with the human naked eye. It cannot be experienced with our normal 5 senses. Therefore, he went on to explain that there is a perceived world and there is a real world. So the famous movie, The Matrix, was based on this principle. There's a perceived world and there's a real world. And then he went on to explain this through a simile. And this is his success as a great teacher, the power of his similes. So the simile goes like this. There's a father and son who are going to see a procession, a perahera. And in processions, there is always a person who makes rings of fire. How is that done? You take a long stick, tie flammable material to the two ends and light it up. And then what you have is two balls of fire on a stick. Then a talented, well-trained, highly skilled person will start turning this pole and gradually start speeding up. And as the speed increases, so initially we see two balls of fire going in a circle, and as the speed increases, the two balls of fire start blurring, and after a point we see a ring of fire. What is that point that we see a ring of fire, friends? It's the point where our eye shutter speed, the turning of the two balls of fire is faster than our eye shutter speed. So our eye sees a ring of fire. Our eye is unable to grasp the speed. Our eye and the brain together is unable to grasp the speed at which it is happening. That is all. So he said, similarly, your body and mind, you see a ring of fire, but actually it's not. So imagine in the father and the son who are watching this, the little child tells the father, I want that, it's beautiful. Please buy me a ring of fire. I want to take it home, it is so beautiful. Now the father tells the son, son, there is no such thing called a ring of fire. But the son is too small to understand. So he starts crying and throwing a tantrum saying, I want that ring of fire, because in his mind, the ring of fire is real. It exists. But the father can see that due to certain conditions, the ring got formed. And when the conditions stop, the ring ceases to be. There's nothing that we can say it's a permanent entity there. It's actually like a mirage, like a delusion. It does not exist. But how can you tell a child who can see it that it doesn't exist? Similarly, the Buddha saw that this body is made of tiny particles. So tiny, our eyes can't see it. So tiny that the human eye cannot see it. It's too small. So therefore, when we look at ourselves, we see a unit, a body, one single unit, a monolithic unit. But we know, like the father does, we know that this body is made of bones, skin, flesh, blood, and so on. We know if you cut deeper, it's cells. We know if you go deeper, it is atoms. And we know in the atoms there are subatomic particles. And in those subatomic particles, more particles, and so on. We know that. We have learned it at school. The Buddha saw it without microscopes through Vipassana. And therefore he said, your body is made of tiny particles, too small to be seen. And those tiny particles are changing at such rapid speed, it's too fast for the brain to comprehend. And your mind, it's even faster. For your mind to figure out what is going on, he said, small consciousnesses appear and disappear. These are so small. He says, now this is where I get confused, because when we hear this from venerable monks, they tell it to us in today's context. So I don't know at the time of the Buddhas whether you could say, when you blink your eye, the conscious states has occurred 1 and 12 times. Zero was definitely invented in India, so it's possible that that was something Buddha said, or maybe he said it in terms of the matrix that was there at that time. But when I heard it through a monk on a Dhamma talk, that is how the monk explained it. When you blink your eyes once, the consciousness has appeared and disappeared, born and died. How many times? 1 and 12 times. After a million is 1 and 6 zeros. I am lost after that. And this is 1 and 12 zeros. So then you blink your eyes now, friends, and see, has anything changed? Your consciousness has changed 1 into 12 times at the blink of an eye. So this is definitely beyond what we can fathom. And therefore, for us, the ring of fire is our reality. However, when the Buddha is saying this, it seems like possible. Seems like possible. How do you know this? So he said, you can experience this. Because if your body is not tiny particles, and if it is one slab of monolithic mass that doesn't change at all, because he's saying that it's changing 1 into 0, 12 zeros in a split of a second. If it is not, then in this second, if it is still, in the next few seconds, if it is still, there should be nothing happening. But in the Vedananupassana, which we practiced in this hall, the Goenkaji technique, when we close our eyes and start paying attention to all the sensations on the body, this was a technique taught by the Buddha. All those sensations are a manifestation of all that change that is happening right now. And Dr. Manori, you would remember we practiced this from the top of our head to the tip of our toes, and we started seeing it in a flow as you breathe in from the sole of your feet to the top of your head, and as you breathe out from the top to the bottom, you can feel this. So of course, samatha meditation becomes so important because for you to develop that sensitivity, you have to first start taming the mind. Samatha meditation helps you to tame the mind. Mindfulness of the breath, focusing on one object, Buddhanusati, Metta meditation, all of these techniques, walking meditation, all of this helps you to focus. And as you develop your focus, you start becoming sensitive to these subtle sensations that was always there in your body. It was always there. Your entire body, you can feel this change in this moment through these sensations. These sensations are tiny, twingling feelings, tiny feelings of warmth, coldness, irritations, like a little ant is walking around, like something is scratching, pressing, pressure, lightness, weight, compressing, stretching, all of these various sensations you feel, which is a manifestation of this big change happening inside. And through that, you start to realize that there's something else happening here. There's a perceived world that I live in, and there's a reality that is also there. And then the Buddha helps you to see through Chittanupassana how your mind is changing. You like things, what you see, you like, you want to keep it. When you like something, what happens? Two things happen. There's a desire to get it, and once you get it, there's a desire to keep it, protect it. And there's always anxiety because there's this feeling, there's this doubt that this might change, it might go away, I might lose it. And with that comes agitation. So agitation comes when you like something and you want it. Doubt comes after you have got it. Now you have doubts. So let's look at it like this. Easiest thing is to think of yourself. After marriage, when the time was right, when I felt I needed a child, I really wanted a child. So for another year or two, whenever I see a little cute child, a cute baby, I'm like, I want it. And then, you know, having a child is not like putting a switch, right? There's a process. So sometimes you have to wait. And then you get agitated. Oh, I want a child. And then there are doubts. What if I don't conceive? And then eventually you get a child. And then the biggest fear I have ever experienced in my life, I experienced after I got what I wanted. Because I loved what I got so much. I am living in constant fear of losing it. All the doubts of what will happen. All the fears of, oh my God. Because I got what I wanted. Let's look at a situation where I don't like something. I still remember when I was in grade 3 or so, before I learned universal kindness and compassion. I didn't like every child in my class, to be honest. Not that later I started liking them, but at least I started learning compassion and kindness and tolerance. So one day, a child that I didn't like was made to sit next to me. And I gave teacher a look like, how can you do this to me? And the teacher understood. The teacher said, this child will benefit by sitting next to you. And I was in grade 3, but I was thinking, you have no idea whether I will benefit or it will be a counter benefit for me, because I don't like this child. So when you don't like something, what happens? You want to get rid of it. Now I can't because the teacher has said the child and there are rules in school. So I was unhappy. When you're unhappy about something you don't like, irritation starts coming. And that irritation over a time becomes anger. And thankfully, 2 weeks later, the teacher said, I give up trying to make everyone friends. You all sit with whoever you like. And I realized that that child also didn't like me. Many other children didn't like each other. So all the children rearranged themselves and sat with who they actually liked. So that worked out well. However, when recently a monk was saying, when you don't like something, it leads to irritation, it leads to anger, especially when you think you don't have much of a choice in the situation. And I remember somebody telling me, actually somebody was telling a young man, one day you will marry the most amazing girl in the world, and legally you will also get her most terrible family as your in-laws, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we all can smile, but this is true, isn't it? You, through your birth parents, you inherit relatives. Some of them you like, some of them you don't, and there's nothing much you can do. And similarly, you marry into families, and some of them you like, and some of them you don't, and there's not much you can do. And you go to work, and similar. You live in a country, there are the things you like, things you don't like. Things you don't like will irritate you. So much so, you might want to give up the things you like and leave. So understanding this side of it, what you like makes you want it, that makes you restless, creates doubts. Once you get it, you get scared and creates more doubts. What you don't like causes you irritation and anger, and you want to get rid of it. So the Buddha said, what you like, you want to have it. What you don't like, you want to get rid of it. Underlying is the want, an insatiable thirst, and he called this thunder. So the ring of fire is one way of thinking of this whole non-self, and where he introduced non-self was, where in this body and mind can you show that this is me? Now, when I reflect, and I do reflect a lot on this, I feel I am the same person who was born and lived for 51 years on this planet. When I look at old photos of school, I feel it is me. But the way the Buddha explained it, I don't exist as a permanent entity, even in a minute, because at the blink of an eye, I have changed 1 into 12 times in consciousness, and do not know how many times I have changed in material form. The problem is we don't internalize this enough. This is not part of popular culture. We don't think of this too much, reflection. Then the other way to think of is the Panchaskandha. Even an enlightened being has Panchaskandha. What we have is Pancha Upadanaskandha, and that is the difference. The problem is not in the Panchaskandha. The problem is in the Pancha Upadanaskandha. What is the difference? Now, interestingly, Kalyana Mitra, who is a Catholic, he's the one who explained this to me. So I say now, long live Kalyana Mitras. And like the Dalai Lama said, you can be better at whatever you are now. You can be a better Catholic, a better Christian, a better Muslim, and a better Hindu. If you learn this, you can be better at whatever you are. So this is how my friend explained it to me. He said, look, Panchaskandha means it's a bundle of things. What is this bundle? Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Form, Rupa is form, Vedana is feelings, Sanya is perception, Sankhara is the reaction, Vijnana is the consciousness. So how does this happen? So I see somebody coming, that's the form, the consciousness, the I, and that whatever that visual object and the consciousness together, attention, tells me that somebody is coming. Then it takes some split seconds to recognize who that is. Initially, it's cognition. So our supercomputer brain, the visual of a person coming, the eye sees only colors and shapes. Eye doesn't see anything else, it's just colors and shapes. Optical nerve takes this data to the brain, and the brain is a supercomputer. Everything that I recall as memories is stored in this brain. And this visual data is now getting interpreted by the supercomputer based on memories. While all of this is happening, feelings are neutral. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya. So the Rupa, somebody was coming. Vedana is neutral. Sanya is the label, the perception, the memory. A Sanya is saying, it's Dr. Manori. But in fact, today I said this to, Anoja is here. So lovely to see you. So the moment I recognize Anoja, I'm like, oh, an entire happiness goes through the body. Feelings of, it's called Sukha Vedana. Pleasant feelings flood the body. And the reaction is Sankhara. Reaction is, you get up, you want to go and speak to her, you want to hug her, you want to ask her, you want to talk to her. So much of reaction. Now, is my eye responsible for this? No. My eye does not know that is Anoja. My eye does not know that's Dr. Manori. My eye has no idea. It's just made of flesh and nerves. The eye sees shapes and colors. This is why the Buddha said, what you see is only what you see. The drama is in the mind, in the brain, in the interpretation, in the perception, in the label. That is where the drama is. The problem is not in the eye. It never was. So this Panchaskandha, it's a bundle of things. Understanding this, really understanding. Now, let's look at me seeing somebody I don't like. I'm not an enlightened being. So there are people, even though I try not to have people I don't like, there are still people that I don't like. And let's say it's somebody who I know, if I meet that person is going to go into something that is going to be very unpleasant. So I see a form, cognition, feeling is neutral, no reaction. Then recognition happens because of the perception and the memories. Oh, it is so and so. Oh my God. Last time we met, it didn't end well. And now I think from the looks of it, it's not going to end well. What is my reaction? I will try to avoid it, hide, move away, quickly talk with someone so that person doesn't come and interact with me. That's the reaction. And the consciousness, now imagine at a blink of an eyelid, if the consciousness was born and died 1 into 12 zeros, this complex process that I described now, how many times the consciousness was born and died, born and died, born and died, born and died. Do I see it as a bundle? No, I don't see it as a bundle. What do I see? I see me thinking, realizing, acting. And if you ask me, did you consciously go and hug Anoja? I'm like, yes, 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 that was my choice. Did you consciously hide away from that person you don't like? Yes, yes, that is me. Me, I'm thinking this. I don't understand that this is a bundle of things. I think I, as a person, am thinking, and this is such a simple thing I'm thinking, I like and I don't like. I don't see the bundle in it. I see it as me. Upadana is not seeing the Panchaskandha as just a process. It's nothing but a process. This process runs whether you are enlightened or not. The only difference is enlightened beings let the process run by itself. They don't identify with the process because they understand that they are here as a result of a flux of material and mental phenomena coming together for reasons. And when the reasons stop, the material and the mental phenomena dissolve and this flux stops. So there is a person, and that's what the Buddha said. I am not saying there is no person, but I'm also not saying there is a person. Kenek ඇත්තෙත් නැහැ, නැත්තෙත්. And this you have to understand through meditation. So as you do Vedananupassana, you feel, oh yes, the body is changing all the time. As you do Chittanupassana, you see, oh yes, the mind is changing all the time. And what is Dhammanupassana? Now this is what is interesting. Dhammanupassana is to reflect on what we discussed just now. Reflect on this. The ring of fire. So I am a ring of fire. That's interesting. Do I see myself as a ring of fire? Yes. As a ring of fire, I married another ring of fire, and I have produced 2 more rings of fire. And I live with the 2 rings of fire who produced me, and the 2 rings of fire who produced the ring of fire who I married. There are lots of rings of fire in my house. No wonder I am on fire all the time. So the Buddha once said, because Venerable Ananda asked, sometimes you go out of the way to explain this to people and you insist on explaining this to people. And sometimes you don't bother. Why is this? Then he said, Ananda, I see people inside a house, the house is on fire. I was also in a house, the house was on fire, my clothes were on fire. And then I saw that there's nothing stopping me from leaving the house. So now I have left that house permanently and now I am in a cool shade. And now I can see other people in burning houses of fire. So I tell them, come friend, come here. And then some people ask me, Friend, how do I come? Tell me. I want to come. Tell me how. And then I tell them. But Anand, there are others. The house is burning. Their clothes are on fire. Beard is on fire. Hair is on fire. And they're asking me, friend, tell me, is it better over there than here? Is it more comfortable there than here? What will I get if I come there? Because I know what I have here. Anand, to those people, I say no. So, Panchaskandha, you can think about your Panchaskandha. So, what I do is, I take something small. So, let's say this cup. And I look at this cup and I think, from small age, looking at a cup seemed to be such a simple thing. But now I understand that to see this cup, a huge, complex process is in motion. Wow. Just thinking about it, trying to internalize it, because otherwise I'll be forever in my perceived world. I am not trying to even understand what this real world is. So thinking about these concepts is called Dhammanupassana. And then the Buddha said, for this, you need someplace quiet where you can think about this. So interestingly, I conduct a meditation program once a week. And I have a cousin who joins from the US. And I give a talk about asana, and then I say, look, enough talk, we are only talking, let's meditate. So we meditate for one. After 1 hour, I ask people on the Zoom, so how was your meditation? My cousin always tells me this. I couldn't meditate because that entire 1 hour, I was thinking about what you said. And I said, that is Dhammanupassana. Thinking about what you heard, these concepts, not about thinking about what you did yesterday. Thinking about these concepts, the ring of fire, the Panchaskandha and the Panchopadanaskandha. So when I look at this, for me, this is a Panchopadanaskandha. I am holding a cup. The Panchaskandha is, this is a process. Honestly, it sounds like Greek. Thinking about it. The more you think, you get comfortable with it. The more you think, you get comfortable. I remember the first time I was thinking about this, it was scary and I decided not to think about it because it was just so uncomfortable. And then I remembered it's uncomfortable because I'm not used to it. So the more I think, the more I get comfortable, it starts becoming peaceful. Starts becoming peaceful. So when I am really agitated, I think I am agitated because I am in a Panchopadanaskandha. I am believing that here there is a permanent entity and here there is another permanent entity yelling at me and I am taking it personally. I am feeling hurt. It's all because of this misunderstanding that there is a permanent entity here. But actually there is no permanent entity here. It's just a process. And that is also a process. There's nothing to do here. And that is so calming, so peaceful. That is so peaceful. And when I travel to work, I get the chance 45 minutes because I am not the person driving. I get 45 minutes to do nothing. I can sleep. I can watch a YouTube video. I can do some of my work because the traffic is so slow. You can actually work with your laptop. Oh, from recent, I start thinking about this. Dhammanupassana. What is this? Why is it so alien? Why is it sounds so true, but in practice it feels so alien? The more I think about it, the more comfortable I get. And then I really must share this because the best kamatahan or the best meditation objects are in your own life. So my own dear mother is going through dementia, and in the last 1 week, she was in a state of mania, which we call a manic state. In that manic state, she's talking non-stop, she's violent, you can't get through to her. And initially, it was very overwhelming. It was very overwhelming because we were brought up in a culture that said, Gedara Budun Amma, your mother is your personal Buddha. You love your mother. And as you grow older, I am 51, she's 80, you realize that time with your mother is so precious. And then when your mother is completely cuckoo and says she'll stab you, hit you, when you are trying to care for her, how do you deal with that? So my son is crying, he's a 19-year-old child, my daughter is crying, my husband doesn't know how to deal with this, everybody's upset. And then I was thinking, what is the Dhamma here? What is the reality here? We all know the reality. We know that when we are born, we are babies, and then we are children, and then young and adults. And then as we grow old, we are coming back to that cycle of being children and babies. So this is like a 2-year-old. So of course she has a on and off. So when she's in this state, it's like a 2-year-old throwing a tantrum. And I remember my son and my daughter when they were very young and throwing a tantrum, you can't get through to them. They are violent. They hit you, they scratch you. So as a mother, what did I do? With a lot of love, with a lot of compassion, you try to care for them. And I will be lying if I say that I was loving and compassionate all the time. There were times when, like any other mother, I was like, should I throttle this little, should I throttle this kid? But you don't do that, right? You don't do that. But then those feelings also come, and then you manage to overcome those negative feelings and you bring out love and kindness and compassion as a mother. And I thought that is the same thing we need to do here. That is the same thing I need to do here. Now, my mother has become the baby and I have become the mother. She did this to me 50 years ago. Now it is my turn. So whenever I feel, why is this happening to me? Because that is when we feel overwhelmed. Why is this happening to her? Why is this happening to me? That is wrong thinking. Instead, I'm thinking, this is love. This is reality. Now let us face this reality with love and compassion and try to do the best. Of course, we are getting a lot of medical advice. She's under medication and all of that is there. And this is in spite of it. So today I was thinking of the whole story about the Buddha saying, all unenlightened beings are crazy. And today when I was reflecting about that, I was thinking, I think I am sane. And from that point of view, my mother in this manic state looks crazy. In her state, she believes she is sane because she asks us, are you mad? Why are you telling me these things? You are mad. So in her mind, she is sane. But we can see that she is insane. And she doesn't understand what is really going on. And then I was thinking, hello, this is how the Buddha sees us. Buddha sees all of us as being insane and not really understanding what's going on. And suddenly I was thinking, now when I look at my mother in this manic state, her thoughts are changing at such rapid speed. And I was thinking, wow, this is what the Buddha saw in us. Things are changing at such rapid speed. Living in a delusion because in the manic state, she's feeling that somebody is trying to harm her. There is some ghost and spirit in the house, and there are people watching her, and all delusional things. And then the Buddha said, we are in a delusion. And I was thinking, this is what it means to imagine you are enlightened and you can see normal human beings acting crazy. This is how the Buddha would have seen, because now when we see crazy, we are like, this is what crazy looks like. See the delusion, see the change. And I was like, wow, this is a kamataha. This is a kamataha. So my invitation to you is everything that is happening to you is nature. Through what is happening to you, through what is happening to those around you, these are all opportunities to understand what is really going on. So instead of thinking of this as a big burden, because for a mother, a child is never a burden, then how come a mother later in life becomes a burden to the child? Unless you look at that as an opportunity to understand reality, what is really going on. So if you think of the Pancha Nivarana or the mental hindrances, because under Dhammanupassana, what comes under Dhammanupassana, there are four main elements. One is the three characteristics of life, understanding that everything is impermanent, changing, fast. Now the thing is this, you don't need a Buddha to come and say that over 50 years you are changing. No, what the Buddha was referring to was that within a blink of an eyelid, you have changed 1 into 12 zeros. That you need a Buddha to come and say, because that is extraordinary. Nobody else has said this in this world up to now. The only people who are saying it is people who heard what the Buddha said, understood it, the Venerable Theros and some lay people in Sri Lanka and across the world, they are saying it because the Buddha first understood it, Sammasana. Now that is extraordinary. And then he said, that amount of change happening in a split second by no means will lead to satisfaction. It's an extremely unsatisfactory state. Anybody who knows physics knows that when something is not stable, what happens? You try to stabilize. Imagine this level of change. How do you stabilize this? You cannot. Your entire life, you are trying to stabilize something that you can never stabilize. We are trying to stabilize old age. We are trying to stabilize sickness. We are trying to stabilize death. And I am going to ask you, friends, how is it going? Do you feel any more peaceful in trying to do that? Because that is what we have been doing all our life. Trying to bring certainty to uncertainty, trying to bring stability to a world where there is no stability because it is changing at this rapid speed. So to expect stability is crazy. And that is why he said, all enlightened beings are crazy, because what you want in life, you can never get. Because you are trying to find peace. You are trying to find peace by getting what you want and removing what you don't want. And that is the biggest craziness in life. But there is another way to observe this, to reflect on this, to understand that there's nothing to do here, only to observe. What you see is what you see, it's shapes and colors. What you hear is only sound waves. Even though you think somebody's scolding you or somebody's praising you, it's your ear, it's just a sound wave. So the mental hindrances. So when you are trying to meditate, so what are the four things in Dhammanupassana? One is this three characteristics of life: impermanent, unsatisfactory nature, and that leads to, that helps you to understand that there cannot be any permanent entity, non-self. That is one bucket. The other bucket is the Panchaskandha, and not understanding it makes you think it as a Pancha Upadanaskandha because of you attaching a permanent entity to it. Everything is about me, what I see, what I hear, what I feel, and me wanting to see more things, hear more things, feel more things. Panchaskandha, Pancha Upadanaskandha, second bucket. The third bucket is mental hindrances. Kamachanda Vyapada Tina Midda Uddhacca Kucca Vicikiccha, right? So Kamachanda means things you like or you desire to please your five sense doors. Vyapada is things you don't like. Tina Midda is that laziness. This is not about you want to sleep. This is about I feel lazy to do this. Uddhacca Kucca is that restlessness, regret, and Vicikiccha is, of course, having doubts. So this Nivarna is the third basket, and the fourth one is, of course, the Four Noble Truths. There is dissatisfaction in this world. This dissatisfaction, there's a reason for it, and that is insatiable thirst. This dissatisfaction, this insatiable thirst can be, there's a solution for it, and the solution is the 8 noble paths. So those are the 4 buckets. So Dhammanupassana is to pick one bucket and reflect on it. And listening to Dhammadesana is important to help you to understand. Now again, what I believe is you already know what you need to know. In fact, you probably know too much. So this is not about hearing and hearing and hearing now. This is about doing. The practice is where we all don't invest sufficiently in. So let us now, I believe it's a good time to now practice. So pick one bucket, any of it. Panchaskandha, the ring of fire, the mental hindrances, the Four Noble Truths, whatever you like. And let's just spend 10 minutes. Is that okay? 10 minutes? 15 you are saying? Okay, Dr. Manori says we can spend 15 minutes on it. So ideally, you do a few minutes of mindfulness of the breath so that you get centered, you get calm. If you're not a big fan of that, do Buddhanusati or Metta meditation just to get calm. And then start reflecting on the Dhamma. Some of you may still naturally get into what you are used to doing, which is Chittanupassana, observing what you like, dislike, or the flowing mind and the still mind, or the sensations, whatever it is. This is a good moment to just let it be and see what your mind is up to. Or you stay with this practice. Today we are practicing Dhammanupassana. Pick a bucket and reflect on what you heard, what interested you, and start reflecting on what does it mean, how do I internalize it. And let's spend 15 minutes in quiet contemplation. I will stop the recording so that otherwise the recording will be 15 minutes of silence.
කොහේද හොටන් ප්ලේස් එකෙන්ද ජානකද